Blog Talk Radio.
Life seems to crush your dreams, so find your balance for all you need. A little work, some family fun. Find your love, keep your life on the run. Told you how the story goes, so write your own script before you grow old. Live your life, laugh out loud. Own who you are, stand up proud. You gotta find what works for you. Find who's all inside, let you be you.
Good evening and welcome to the Star Chamber Show live podcast. And this is Steven Zimmer coming to you from Lexington, Kentucky for episode number 351 for those of you keeping score. And it's a great night tonight and we've got a great guest and we're going to have a lot of fun tonight. And joining me in the co-host seat is the lovely, the wondrous, the vivacious Holly Phillippe. Hi, Holly.
Hello, hello.
There you are. ready for the show, and it's going to be a great one because it's going to be somebody that you and I both love to have in the show, Star Chamber Show favorite, but that's all we're going to say at the moment. Of course, we've got some news and other items to discuss, and at least tonight we don't have to compete with the greatest award show on earth, the Grifty Awards. Those are tomorrow. the Grifties are fun. Yeah, those are fun.
Not tomorrow. Big night.
Yes, tomorrow. That's the third annual Grifties put on by the folks at Hotep Nation. But yeah, definitely a fun show and a lot of good humor and yeah, very entertaining. So yeah, we don't have that to compete with us tonight. So hopefully you're all tuned in and buckled in and ready for a show. Of course, though, if you do miss the live show, a couple days afterwards, we leave it on Blog Talk Radio, but we have started the last few weeks to cross-post, both on YouTube and Rumble. Both are great platforms for video, and, of course, we want to give people options. And so, if you go over and subscribe to the Seventh Star Press YouTube channel, you can find Star Chamber Show episodes there. And the current episodes are cross-posted. Usually we aim to have them up over the weekends after they air live. So definitely subscribe. Definitely check those out and spread the word. It's another way to get the word out there. We have been getting some nice interactions with folks and listens off of those cross postings. So far so good. So, but we will give you some convention news because, of course, the show is affiliated with the Imaginarium Convention, and so we try to keep you up to date on all the happenings going on with Imaginarium. And yes, it continues. We just have an absolute parade of fantastic guests. And of course, last week, we gave you the scoop that Lee Pennington, definitely an amazing award-winning author, poet, filmmaker, and playwright, who has, he's just incredible. He's a poet laureate in the state of Kentucky, lifetime appointment, and has produced 21 documentaries, and he's had 1,300 of his poems have been published in more than 300 magazines, and even has the Lee and Joy Pennington Cultural Heritage Gallery at the University of Louisville, which houses all of his works and also films, artifacts, writings, artifacts from traveling around the world. He's a world traveler. Actually, he just got back from a trip to Antarctica, so he gets out there.
Yeah, there's Chile and Antarctica and just all around.
Yeah.
Just a wonderful trip. I love seeing all the pictures. If you go to his Facebook page, you can see some of the pictures that him and Jill posted. They went on a Holland, what do they call it? What was that cruise ship?
I think they did the Holland America line on this one.
Holland
but they were out there hopping around far to the south in the southern hemisphere. So it was awesome. Yeah, they were everywhere.
They got to see penguins. They seen penguins up close and personal, and they've seen glaciers and just all kinds of cool stuff.
Yeah, it was a cool trip from what I saw from the pictures.
We need to have Lee on. We're going to have Lee on soon and have him
we'll get him
tell
on.
us all about his adventure. Definitely.
Yes.
Oh, that would be a good
That would be cool.
Yes.
And we've also got a number of good panelists that have been added in the past week. Actually no less than 8. Just to give you an idea of how many new guests are coming aboard the convention. I'll give you each one because they're all outstanding. April Jones, David Mattingly, Becky Steele, and of course the Lee of the 5 E's, as we call him, Lee E. Stone. And he has a new author picture where he literally looks like a young Saruman. And this was pointed out by Michael Nost on social media, how much Lee looks like a young Saruman. So we actually are calling it, we call him Lee of the 5 E's, Lee E. Stone, Stone last letter being E as well. So we call him Lee of the 5 E's, but we also call him young Saruman. So he's acquiring a lot of names. We'll have to get him to call in too, and then we have Alini McKnight. She's coming for the first time to Imaginarium. It's awesome. David Shearer, who is a publisher and game designer, and then also author-editor Jen Solinsky, who will be a guest on the Star Chamber show next week. If you want a little scoop about who's coming up here, she writes amazing music books. I think she'll be talking about her Duran Duran book in particular. So I know Sandy Linder is going to be very excited about that. And then we also have Alan Goldstein, possibly, arguably, has the best author photo I've ever seen. With him, with a mountain lion looking over his shoulder. We've used that photo every year at his banner, and we will continue to do so because you just cannot beat it. I mean, he literally has a mountain lion looking over his shoulder, and when you're making a banner, you just cannot pass that up. But he is also, in addition to taking great author photos, he is just a fantastic guy. Has a real good background in journalism, and he's a fantastic writer, and he's got a middle grade fantasy series out now, and really, really top notch guy. And so come meet him for sure. And then we also have one spotlighted guest, and that would be Lydia Shearer, and she is definitely an indie success story. She is known for her series Love, Lies, and Hocus Pocus. That universe of books independently has sold over 500,000 copies worldwide. So, yes, not bad. and she's also published a game-lit series, Transdimensional Hunter, with New York Times bestselling author John Ringo. So those of you that like military action-driven fiction probably have heard of John Ringo. So she and he have co-authored the series, and she's also written stories for several Black Tide Rising anthologies. She's going to be a great guest to have. And last week, we have 2 authors, Brian D. Anderson and Lydia Shearer, both of whom independently have each sold over 500,000 books. So those are the kind of people that you get to meet, interact with, and pick their brains a little and get some advice from at Imaginarium. So, you don't want to miss this or any of it. And Holly, that's just in 1 week. that's 1 week of new editions.
And I am working on programming. I've got some new panels and workshops in the works that I'm noodling over. Yep.
Yeah, you sure are, and we're going to be getting a lot more of that up. We just had just so many new guests and new vendors. We got the dealer hall is going to have some amazing new exhibitors. We'll get details up about them soon. We just added a phenomenal comic book vendor today who's going to have a nice setup. A really nice comic book vendor, and so those of you that collect comic books, so those of you that collect comic books are going to be really, really happy about that, I think, and really, really pleased when you see the offerings there. And yeah, just keeps on chugging. I'm very, very excited about it all. So, yeah, lots of momentum. And, yeah, chat room is open. So, folks, if you have trouble getting in, remember, refresh the page. It can be a little finicky at times. Sometimes it takes 2 times. Sometimes it even takes 3, but you will get in. Yeah, so you just be persistent. And it looks like, so far we got some great folks in the chat room, such as award-winning author and filmmaker Amy McCorkle is hanging out with us, looks like. And then we also have Metal Beck Harrison is in there. And, yes, so looks good. So, yeah, tonight's show is brought to you by Sandy Linder, the genre blender, and also the fine folks from that amazing press, Per Bostet Publications. So I will give you a little bit about each of them. And this week, we'll start with Per Bostet. Per Bostet Publications is a small press based in the Louisville metro area, specializing in speculative fiction and other outside-the-box books. With 40 titles in print and ebook formats and a handful of audiobooks, Per Bostet offers a little bit of everything. Follow the investigations of Private Eye David Blaze in M.B. Dabney's An Untidy Affair, a historical mystery set during the 1985 police bombing of the Move House in Philadelphia. Or join the psychic private investigator Alan Rodriguez in New Mexico in A Handful of Dirt by Janie Franz as he tries to clear an elderly man wrongfully accused of murder. You can find these titles and more at perbostetpublications.com, at Amazon, or you can find the press in person at regional events. Per Bostet Publications, where timeless tales unfold. So thank you to Sarah Marion Allen, and T. Lee Harris, the literary triumvirate. So now we're going to go over to give you a little bit about the awesome and amazing Sandy Linder, the genre blender. And, yes, I hope Sandy's out there listening tonight. And, I think she's got she's on the road for some business. So hopefully she is catching this. So, hey, Sandy, and here's a little bit about her.
The latest release from author Sandy Linder is Book 3 of the Fairy Holiday series titled I Know What Your Vampire Did Last Summer. It's a standalone story in the series, but it's got all the fun, humor, horror, and sweet paranormal romance you'd expect of a Linder Blender vampire satire. Come on down to the Naples Hideaway and Marina for a fun and romancy vacay. But watch out for the Grendwolves and the random femme fatale who thinks she's competing for your vampire's attention. Pick up I Know What Your Vampire Did Last Summer by Sandy Linder today.
There you go. I love that. Linder Blender vampire satire. I just love that.
Yes, that's a mouthful.
It is. I think she should make a T-shirt out of that. Honestly, I mean, you always look for ideas on good merch, and I think that's it. So, that's one. But I'm not going to delay here, Holly, tonight because it looks like our guest is ready. So I think we're just going to get into it just a hair early tonight. I've personally been looking forward to the show a lot. I'd love to catch up with this particular guest. Always has great stuff going on. So. Drum roll, right? So we'll give them the classic Star Chamber Show intro. That's right. And so tonight's guest returning is a Star Chamber Show favorite. He is an award-winning author, comic creator, publisher, and actor. He is the author of the highly popular Snow series of thrillers, as well as the Sherriff Tom Myers Mysteries. He has written everything from novellas to novels, to short stories, to comics, to graphic novels, and even screenplays. He is also an actor with appearances in many notable TV series, some that you will definitely recognize, such as Creepshow, Joe Stryker, Doom Patrol, and Ozark. So by now, you know who I'm talking about. The one, the only, the amazing man that brings the snow, Bobby Nash. Bobby, welcome to the Star Chamber Show. You're live.
Hello.
Hey, thanks for having me back. It's been too long.
Yes, that's what I realized. I was like, it's been a while since Bobby's been on the show. I was like, we have to have you just cannot have a year of Star Chamber Show episodes without Bobby Nash. It's kind of like a tradition now. It's just, you can't go a year without Bobby Nash.
I'm way behind. I can get behind that. Yeah, absolutely.
We want quality. We want creatives that are driven, that are successful, that are classy, that are very talented, and you kind of check all those boxes. So here you are.
I was with you to the classy part. Then I don't know. You kind of lost me there. You are humble and gracious. You definitely are. So we will brag about you, however. So but welcome aboard, and great to have you in the guest chair again. And certainly, folks in the chat room, if you have questions for Bobby or any comments you want us to pass along, please leave them. But I mean, it just goes without saying. I mean, I watch you in action like every day because, of course, both of us are crazy people that work around the clock on our creative careers, and we're up late, we're up early, we're always posting, we're always promoting. And so, yes, I see your storm of activity, and you've always got stuff going on. So I'm just going to throw it over to you to tell us, catch us up for about the past, roughly almost the past year. Catch us up on what has been happening in the world of Bobby Nash. Just busy. It has been the last year and a half has probably been the busiest of my career, which has been nice. It's been it's amazing. Who would have thought that being stuck at home with no conventions and none of that stuff, how productive you can be.
Right.
And I know, right? Yeah. So I've just had a lot of work happen, so a lot of that work will come out hopefully this year. Sometimes how publishing works, it doesn't always. Sometimes things sit a year or two after they're done. Sometimes,
right?
But a lot of work, a lot of writing, a lot of really cool projects for that I was able to work on and have complete that should come out this year. A lot of comics. I love writing comics. That was how I got started, and I hadn't written many comics in the last 4 or 5 years, and last year I wrote quite a few. I think 17. So it was a good year for writing comics for me. So that was fun.
Nice.
Just a lot of stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So back in the comic saddle. All right. Yeah, that's gonna be a cool thing. We're definitely gonna hear about that.
Yeah, comics were my first love. That's where I got my start. That was where I learned how to write, was writing comic scripts. And so it's anytime I get the opportunity to write comics, I tend to jump at it. Yeah.
Fantastic. Yeah, well, certainly you have a passion for that, and even kind of spills over to how you fill orders, because you actually are an artist as well, and you often do custom art on the packages you send to people that order books from you. I love seeing those. Those are so cool.
Thank you. Yeah, it started as just a little lark, something I would do every once in a while. It's when the urge hit me, and it kind of took on a life of its own. And they're fun. I enjoy them. People tend to enjoy getting them. The ladies at the post office get a big kick out of them, because whenever I come in to mail out packages, they all come out from the back to look to see what I've come up with. So that's a nice,
cool.
It's a nice little bonus that they appreciate that. They think it's pretty cool, because I was afraid they would be hacked off because I'm like covering up envelope space. But they're like, no, this is fun. We like these. So so that's been. Plus, I love to draw, and I'm not good at doing things just for the heck of it. I have to have a reason. This gives me a reason to draw. So that's fun. I enjoy it, and it's a good. You were talking about how we're always working. That's a good promotional tool too, because I can share those pictures and say, well, if you want your own, go to the store and buy something. So it's a creative little bit of marketing too.
So, but I love doing it. It's fun. I can do that. I can do that while I'm watching TV. So I'm in the comfy recliner, propped up with a little, lap desk, and just doodling away. And you just kind of lose yourself for a little while.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I imagine on the other end, with the people that are ordering from you, the ones that may not be aware that you do that, I'm sure that's a pretty cool surprise when they either get it dropped on their porch or in the mailbox. That's got to be cool.
It's one of those things too. I don't take requests on those. You get whatever I feel like drawing.
Yeah.
Because I do commissions too, and people can like order a specific image. But in terms of the envelope art, it's whatever just strikes my fancy. Now, sometimes if I'm sending it to someone I know, and I know that person, or I know they're into something, I can, draw something I know they like. Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah, no,
Holly, enjoy it. It's
Yeah, you've got to look at these, Holly. You have to go on his. He's especially. I know he posts these a lot on LinkedIn. I've seen him, and of course, he does on other platforms. You've got to see these. These are cool, Holly.
If you go to BobbyNash.com, there is an art tab. You can look under there, and I put them up there.
There's an archive there too. That's awesome.
Yeah. So they're a lot of fun, and it's like I said, it's just. It scratches a creative itch, and it's just fun,
Yeah, you should.
And I enjoy it.
Make an art book, a Bobby Nash art book, just of the art you did for people. You could probably do that.
Yeah, like a coffee table, like mention. Art.
Yeah. Well, I've done that before. I've done little like sketch cards and things where I do them at shows or. I draw on I take index cards with me to conventions, and during the slow bits, I'll just draw something and throw it up on the table, or somebody comes and buys a bunch of stuff, I'll just give it to them, or kids come by, I'll give them you want a sketch card? Here you go. So I love doing that, and in the last few years, several conventions have started doing this thing where if kids come to the con, they have a sketchbook for the kids, and they'll give it to the kids for free. And the guests who agree to be part of it, they'll put a little sign on our table. And if you come by with the sketchbook, we will do a free sketch for the kids. And the kids they're so excited because usually what I'll do is come around here where you can see, because their parents are with them, it's like come around here so you can see, and they watch me draw, and they're just fascinated by watching the process. And so it's really cool. So I enjoy doing that. I enjoy doing that, especially for the kids. And I do that a lot on free comic book days. I'll go to, sometimes I'll go to comic shops and, say I'll do free sketches for people. If you supply the paper, I'll do free sketches for people all day long. And it's fun. I enjoy doing that.
Yeah, Holly, I think the Pelicans would enjoy that. The Pelicans, by the way, Bobby, that's our nickname for three of the grandkids. They're great, Branson, Addison, and Bentley. And then I think that Lily and Raven and June would like that too, especially, the two younger ones, they get a little older, but Raven would love that too. Yeah, that idea. Yeah, you're going to have to roll that around because I think the kids would love that, Holly.
Well, one of the coolest things that happened to me. I did free comic book day one year. I was at the comic shop and I was doing sketches for people all day long. And I remember this one little boy. It was his birthday, and after they were leaving this, they were going to the birthday party, and he was all excited. And I remember his name was Alex, and I'm terrible with names, so that's how much of an impression he made because. He was carrying around a little Deadpool Funko Pop. He loved Deadpool. And so the sketch I did for him, I drew his Funko Pop sketch as a sketch.
Oh, wow.
And colored it. And the reason I remember his name is because I always try to write something, because I remember I'm a writer, and so I try to write something funny on these things. And so I wrote something like, from today forward, your name is now Alex Poole. That's why I remember his name, because that was part of the gag. 2 days later, I get an email through my website from his mother. And she was like, I just wanted to thank you. You absolutely made my son's birthday. My husband and I spent hundreds of dollars on this party and all these gifts and all kinds of stuff. And all he'll talk about is, look at this picture I got. And she said we had to frame it, and it's hanging up in his room. And yeah, so that kind of stuff, that makes you feel really good, and so, yeah. So it makes it all worth it. Yeah.
Yeah, Holly. What did you say, Holly?
I said that's so fun because it really makes them feel special, and it's something, really neat because they don't get to see the process like you're saying. They'll see art and stuff like that, but they don't actually get to be around artists unless they are lucky enough to have one in the family or whatever, but they don't actually get to see it happen and to see it, the creation. That is just, that's cool.
Yeah, one of there's a high school here in Georgia that does a convention, like it's a one-day convention, but they do it during school hours, and the kids get to come to the convention during one of the periods that they have their English class. And I think I did that a couple of times, and there were so many that were fascinated that, wait, this is an actual job? That because if you don't know, if you don't know how if you don't know how books are made, you don't, and so they were just fascinated by the fact that wait, you get paid for this? That you can do this as a career, because a lot of people, because if you don't know how books are made, or movies or anything like that, it's kind of like it's like you don't, it's almost like they magically appear, and so it was really cool to kind of inspire, because some of these kids were like, I draw my own comics. I didn't know I had an option besides just drawing my own comics. What can I do? And so that was really cool. There were a bunch of us there that were writing and drawing comics, and we were just giving them pointers and telling them the good and the bad. You don't hide the bad, because comics, like most other publishing, can break your heart big time. As you both know, it is a dog eat dog industry. At times. But it's really cool. So that stuff's fun. I love doing that kind of stuff, the outreach and teaching. And I've never considered myself a teacher, but I do love doing informative, instructive panels and stuff, And so I enjoy doing that. So I try to do writers' conferences and publishing conferences and things like that when I can. It's certainly, we did several when we did the virtual Imaginarium that year. It was great to talk to people about bring your questions. What do you want to know about writing? What do you want to know about publishing? And then, kind of sharing that information. Because, man, I wish there had been more people willing to share when I was starting. Because I did go around and ask some people, especially when my first novel, I had just sold my first novel, and it would still be a year before it came out. And I remember going around before I signed the contract and asking authors, either at conventions or a few that I found their websites, and was just stunned by how many were like, "Go away, kid," So. It was a little disheartening, and I determined right then and there I never wanted to be that guy. I never wanted to be I don't. So I don't always know the answer, but if I know the answer, I'll share it.
Yeah, you and me both. I've always been that way too, and I've never wanted to turn into one of the other type that drive people away.
Right, because you lose nothing by helping people. You know, someone else being successful does not make me any less successful.
Right.
You know, it just
exactly.
I really like to think of it as a community, and and there's a lot of, since those days I've gotten to know more people, and I realized that I just ran into most of the outliers at that time, because there are a lot of people in the intervening years that I know I can ask, and they're there. They'll sure, let me tell you what I know. So it's cool. I love that back and forth.
Well, yeah, as a matter of fact, I want to give a shout out to that never-ending convention online. You just did a panel for them on writing, I think it was law enforcement characters, if I remember the post right.
Well, we just
recorded
it last
one.
Night.
Yeah,
we recorded one last night. It'll be out in like 2 weeks. But it was writing realistic law enforcement, and I was the only writer on there who does not work in law enforcement. So, I was like, part of, one of the things that helps me when I get stuck, and actually there's 2 guys here on this panel I've reached out to with questions, So, people love to talk about their jobs, and, you get to meet people and know people. And yeah, I've built up a nice group of people that I know that I can go to and say, look, I got a law enforcement question, or I've got a law question, or a doctor question, and they'll like, sure, I'll answer it. You don't take it. You don't take advantage of it. You don't pester them every day. But when you've got something, they're happy to go, oh yeah, you should try this, or because you can do a lot of research online and get the technical aspects, but what you really get from talking to people that live that job are those little, this is called this, but we all refer to it as, and that stuff's not in the technical research. It's those little things that kind of add that depth to the characters. So I had a ball. Yeah. I have a ball doing those because we are talking about the actual craft as opposed to just us pitching our stuff. We're talking about the things we've discovered in writing certain types of genres and whatnot. Yeah, so that's fun. I love that stuff.
Yeah, that's fantastic, man. And you're right. Most professionals are usually 99% of the time I've always found they're willing to answer some questions. And most of the time they're quite flattered if you bother to try to get things right in your writing, as far as accuracy.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, that was one of the things I asked them last night. I was like, so how many of you guys in law enforcement can watch law enforcement TV shows or cop shows? And they're like, nope. Because it's like, because I'm sitting there, it's like, well, my wife won't let me watch that because I'm yelling at the TV the entire time. That's not how you do it.
Right. I do that usually with because I'm kind of like just an amateur history buff, especially with ancient world and medieval warfare and whatnot, and I find myself even doing that when I watch shows on TV. Also, no, that's not right, or no, that's ridiculous for this time period, and I know exactly how that goes.
Yeah. Or they set something in a place that I know, and I'm like, wait, have you ever visited that place?
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. No kidding. But you're talking about meeting people, getting people that you meet and all, and you've started. Like I said, we went through that awful period where everything was shut down, but it seems like everybody's starting to get active again. And I've noticed you've started to get out and do live events. You've got a very impressive setup, and I have to give a shout out to them because I missed them. But I saw you. I love that picture of you with those rascals, Sean Taylor, James Palmer, and Michael Gordon. The four of you, the four horsemen of the convention apocalypse were out there.
Yeah, we were talking online, and I was like, you know what? It's been a couple of years since we've all four been in the same room together. We should probably do something about that. And so, we met and just had lunch one day, and it was great. It was just really cool to get out and hang with the guys. But the shows are starting back up. I haven't been diving in quite as much as I was doing before. I've been doing a lot of smaller events. stuff closer to home. Because, I also, when I travel, I have to take my dad into consideration. And so I don't go quite as far unless he wants to go with me. And he is not this is not his world. He doesn't really get into this as much as, like I do. And, but I've been doing a lot of one-day things, like I did the Atlanta Comic Convention, not this, last weekend, which was just a one-day show. I'm doing several little talks and signings at local bookstores, or like there's a the Atlanta Self-Publishing Conference is in April. I'm going to teach a class there, and that's a one-day event, and we're going to do that. I'm going to talk about, designing and what you need to have a successful cover for your novels. So we're going to talk about that, but there's different topics and stuff. So, doing a lot of that stuff. I haven't done a lot of big, gone for 3 or 4 day shows, with the exception of last year I Dragon Con, because that's a 5-day monster.
That's the big one. Yeah, it's a Super Bowl.
Yeah,
in this
but
region.
It's also an hour from home, so it's not as a big thing to be away, because I can be home in an hour should I need to. But that's the biggie for me. That's the big show I do every year. So that one's always fun.
Yeah, I knew you were a regular at Dragon Con, and it's obviously a spectacle at least. Every year. I mean, the ones that, and like I said, we talk about it often. I mean, I get just as much sometimes out of the small ones as I do the larger ones, but you have a great setup. I mean, it gets more. I was like, wow, it must be an operation to set up and do inventory each time, because you have so many titles. I mean, it's impressive.
Well, I start phasing stuff out after a while. With, a lot of anthologies I don't carry anymore just because I don't have room for them. Or, you mentioned the snow books, or some of the stuff I publish myself, I tend to do as novellas. So I have the Snow and Sherriff Myers novella series. Well, every 3 novellas I collect into a collected edition, because they're 30,000 words each. So you get in the 90,000 words, that's full novel length. So I collect it. And after a while, the novellas, I'll start phasing them out of cons, just taking the collecteds, just because of space concerns.
Right.
So I've built up. I mean, if you see the pictures, there are racks. They're not just laying on the table anymore. I've got racks.
No, it's an arsenal, but it does look just absolutely amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
it never looks the same way 2 conventions in a row. But, I mean, there are certain things, like all the snow books generally go together. But where everything ends up on the table, no 2 shows are exactly alike, ever. And
no,
which is cool. I guess that kind of keeps it fresh,
Well, you've always got new material coming out because you're prolific. So, I mean, there's always something on the horizon or something coming out, or that's got to help.
And for you guys that play the game, he said the P word, so take a shot. I had a friend that created a drinking game that says, yes, every time the word prolific is used around me, you have to take a shot.
I'll keep that in mind. I'm more of a sipper than a shooter when it comes to my bourbon, but I'll keep that in mind.
Because depending on the interview, you can get pretty sloshed.
Well, being the host, I don't want to get too sloshed for you, Bobby. I'll have to be a little careful here. But that wouldn't be fair to you. But that's a good one. I'll have to remember that. So when I, just listen in the audience on a future thing with you, then I'll have to keep that in mind. Take a drink every time.
Ricky Zero came up with that one. He did that at a convention once. He's in a band, and the Radio Cult, and they were playing it at a convention. And he saw me, walking by, and he said something to me and yelled, and he says, "And that's the prolific author, Bobby Nash. I don't know what prolific means, but you have to take a shot every time you hear it." And it just, and it's just been a thing now. I flash that every time I hear the word now.
Well, now now I've never had something to associate that word with, but now I do. So thank you. But it does fit you. It does. It's accurate.
Yeah,
it's not false advertising at all.
Yes, staying busy keeps me out of trouble.
Yeah. That's it. Me too. I just get up every day and get the work done. Just keep chugging.
Yep.
And as you know, it's that's really not that's the core to it. That really is.
Absolutely. Yeah.
People, how do you do all this? Well, you just get up each day and do the work. That's really how you do it.
Yeah, really. It's the moment it really solidified for me. I realized that if I want to do this as my job, I have to treat it like a job. And that was like a big eye-opener because, that means I can't wait until the muse hits me. I can't wait for inspiration. I've got to work. And so, because, if you wait for inspiration, sometimes that doesn't come for a while. But I find that if you start working, then inspiration catches up to you. Inspiration is like, wait, he started without me, and catches up to you. It's like the old saying, what is it, people, the question you get a lot is, how do you find time to write? And the answer is you don't. You make time to write. You will never find it. You have to make it. And it's hard because
it's not easy.
And you both know this. Yeah, because I know, because this is what you guys do too. So I know you know this. But when it becomes a job, like any other job, you start looking for reasons not to do it. You start looking for reasons to goof off. Just like if you go into an office, for your data crunching job. Oh, man, the last thing I want to do is crunch numbers today. There are days I get up where the last thing I want to do is write this darn story. But you just have to suck it up and make yourself do it like you would if you were at your day job, And that mindset helped me a lot.
Yeah, I've got a routine myself, and it's like, some days you feel the fire, some days, you're not feeling it so much, and but I mean, you still do it every day, and it's part of that routine, I guess, for lack of a better word, that you have, and once that kicks in, though, I mean, you'll notice you start finishing projects on a regular basis, and then you see the value of it. And that's when you realize it. Yeah.
Yeah, like when I realized that I'm not just a writer, technically I am a small business owner, because writing is just a small part of all the stuff that goes into being a writer. You have to, you have to do your promotion, keep your websites updated, learn how to write press kits or press releases. You're doing photos and headshots. You're talking to conventions. You're setting up travel. You're talking to podcasts. You're talking to people that do interviews for magazines and websites. You're answering fan mail, which I'm still gobsmacked that happens, that I get fan mail. You're running to the post office because you've sold books. You've got to get them packaged and out. You've got, taxes you got to keep up with. Just all that stuff that it's necessary and it's important, but you have to balance it because you can realize I've worked for 8 hours today and I haven't written a word. And writing the words is the big part of the job because you can't sell a book you haven't written. So
Holly can tell you. She watches how I do my thing, and you're right. I mean, you and Amy McCorkle said in the chat room she was listening to this, and she put seat of the pants to the seat of the chair. And,
absolutely,
yeah, it's true. Yeah.
Well, what's that old joke where the guy goes, "I am a writer. Today I am going to write. I am going to write a lot. I am going to get a lot of writing done today. But first," and you can just kind of fill in the blanks with whatever menial thing you figure has to be done first, like cleaning your office or, you know, doing the laundry or, you know, it's just, that stuff just creeps in, and you have to really schedule yourself to get stuff done.
That's the downside of working from home, because you've got everything else you got to do while you're home: laundry, cleaning, answering the door, you know, groceries. There's other things, cooking, you know, and
starting or in Holly's case, starting fires.
Starting fires, having to scrub walls, floors, and everything like I've had to do the past week because of black foot. But oh man,
well,
and I've been doing that. Plus
training your family and friends to know that just because I'm home doesn't mean I'm free to just do whatever.
That's a big one.
Yeah. You have to, you know, you have to make it clear that this is work. You know, I don't mind going out to lunches with people, but don't spring it on me 5 minutes before you want to go. Tell me on Tuesday.
Give us a heads up. You can't just show up because
that way I can. Right. If I know I'm going to go off on Thursday, I do a little extra on Wednesday. And so, because we all have deadlines. And, So it's a lot of that. There's a lot of those things that you just have to juggle and learn how to do. But at the end of the day, too, I count myself very fortunate that my commute is I wake up in my bedroom, I walk across the hallway into my office. You know, I don't have to fight Atlanta traffic. I don't, you know.
Love that.
I can go to work in my pajamas, you know.
Right.
And Atlanta traffic, that alone is worth it. That's a lot.
I've done
that.
Yeah, I've done that, and anytime I don't have to do it, that's awesome. You know, I'm also not a morning person, so the fact that I don't have to get up at 5 a.m. to get ready to go to a job, you know, that's awesome. I get up when I'm more refreshed, then I can work. And so that works out. It works great for me. It's also, it does allow that flexibility with my dad. My dad has doctor's appointments. I get him, you know, we have that. There's that flexibility of being able to work at home. So so now I don't want it to sound like it's a burden. I mean, it's a job that has its moments like any of them, but my goodness, I mean, Bobby 20 years ago, if he could have seen me now, he would have went, that's, you know,
right?
Because you know, there was a time when, you know, just getting someone to publish something of mine was a goal. So it's come a long way.
And when it comes to those lunches, though, I will just put one addendum there. But if they're paying for the lunch, then yes, I'm more inclined to go to it. So I get a free lunch. Yeah, absolutely.
That does help. Yeah.
And like I said, as you've come along, you've gotten to deal with a lot of great projects and award-winning projects even, and this is very timely. It's a good segue for this. But one of our Imaginator guests last year was the amazing James Aquilone, and he was just a great guest. He sat with us during the awards banquet, just my first time meeting him in person. But he was just a wonderful individual to have there, and we've been fortunate. We've had a lot of Bram Stoker award winners, and now he's in line for this year because I saw that post about how Kolchak 50 graphic novel is on the preliminary ballot for this year's Bram Stoker Awards. So I was excited to see that. But talk a little bit about that, because that's something that I know that you're definitely happy to hear.
It was. I love Kolchak, the character. I was very fortunate to get to write Kolchak twice last year. One of them was for Moonstone does a series where it's Kolchak in the modern day, which was a little weird to write him using a cell phone. But I co-wrote a story with Paul Kupperberg, and that was fun. Yeah. And I assume, you know, you go into these things, you never know if you're going to do it more than once. And I was talking with James because they were doing the Kolchak 50th anniversary graphic novel through Kickstarter, and they had well exceeded their goal. And so they got to a point, one of the things he, as a stretch goal, was we'll get some of these writers who do prose and have them do Kolchak short stories to go with this as well. And so I reached out, and we talked about it, and I was like, look, I've written Kolchak once. I would love to do it again. And now the difference is, like, the one I'd done before was kind of like a modern-day version of Kolchak. The 50th anniversary is tied to the TV show timeline and the novels timeline.
Yeah.
So it takes place in that era. And so they had a timeline of Carl's life from, like, through childhood, teenage years and up. And they gave us a timeline. I was able to go in and say, ooh, I like this era. And one of the ones I liked was before the show started, in the timeline of the books, Carl was a war correspondent in Vietnam. And so I pitched a story of Kolchak in Vietnam where something happens. And they liked it, and James approved it, and I went out and wrote it, did a lot of research on weird Vietnamese folklore to use, because Kolchak was very big on, the monsters and from folklore and local legends and stuff like that. So I did a lot of research and came up with an idea that James liked, and I was able to write it, and it's in the book, and I'm thrilled. Like I said, Carl Kolchak is one of the coolest characters, to come out of the 20th century, I think. He is a fantastic character, both in the books and in the TV show. Certainly the TV show, it left a lasting impression on a lot of fans and creators, because that's one of those where people seem to be clamoring for, how can I write a Night Stalker story? So I feel very fortunate that I was able to do it. That was just a ton of fun. And to see awesome. That it's on the preliminary ballot for the Stoker Awards. That's just thrilling. I'm so happy for everybody involved, and hopefully it'll make the final ballot. So, it's cool.
Congratulations.
Thank
all
you.
of you.
And I enjoy doing stuff. One of the perks, I guess, of being where I am now is I'm able to do that occasionally, play with other people's toys. I got to write Zorro last year, which was really cool. Big Zorro fan. Love the, I hadn't read a lot of Zorro, but I had seen a lot of the TV shows and movies. So now I've read a good bit of Zorro, because I went back and, picked up the reprints of the original stories. And that was super fun to do. And so anytime I get to play with other people's characters is fun. It's even more fun if they're characters that I have a connection to. I got to write the Lone Ranger. That hasn't come out yet, but I wrote a Lone Ranger story. And then in some cases I've played with friends' characters, like Charles Millhouse. I wrote a Captain Hawkland story for his anthology with his character, and we actually swapped, because Captain Hawkland is a pulp pilot character, and I have Lance Starr, which is a pulp pilot character. So we each wrote a story where the two of them team up. So that was fun, though, us getting to play with each other's characters and, throw them together and see what, kind of mischief we could get them in. So stuff like that stuff's that's fun. That's kind of the icing on the cake of getting to do it. Oh my God, I got to write these cool characters, and then, okay, back to the day job.
But the interesting thing with you, however, though, with that, and you set this up beautifully. I mean, you certainly have enjoyed participating in shared universes that others have created, but the reverse is now taking place, where other writers are participating in your universe. So you're at the other end of it now as the creator and writer of a franchise universe, but you have people that are participating in shared universe projects, but they're in your world. With the snow tales and stuff, and so that's got to be interesting after you've done it the other way, and you've been in other people's universes. Yeah. What's it like seeing people play in your universe? I mean, that's got to be a cool addition.
It is one of the most terrifying things I have ever done in my life. Not because I was afraid it would be bad, because I did hedge my bets. I went to people I'd either worked with before or I know super well. So I knew, I knew everybody, I knew what I was going to get. I knew all these folks could handle it. The terror came in with, wait, what if they write my characters better than I do? And I swear that thought stayed with me for a while. And but it was wonderful. It was a wonderful experience. What I did was I put together a Bible, and I gave them all the, because at that point I'd only written 5 of them of the 6, or 4 of the 6 when I first sent it out. And so I was like, you can use any of these characters. You cannot use these 3. There were 3 that were, because I already had plans for them in the main book. But you can't use these 3, but you can use any other supporting character in the book. And I wrote down their names and the little descriptions of them, what books they appeared in. So if you wanted to go research them, if you hadn't read it yet. And then they went, and it's like, it doesn't have to be Snow. It can be a secondary character or something. I mean, it does not have to be a Snow story. It's just in that world. And I got some really, really cool pitches sent to me. Gary Phillippe wrote one about Big John Salmon, which was is Snow's buddy who used to be in prison. Gary writes great noir, gritty crime drama. And so he gave me a story that fits that mold with this character, and it works. And the beauty of it is, it's something I probably never would have written, which is great because it gets to see a different side of the character. Nicole Givens-Kurtz, she threw me the biggest curveball. She was like, I want to tell a story with Snow's mother, and I have not introduced his mother in the book yet. We just mentioned her one time, and so I was like, you know what, cool, let's do it. And so she and I kind of sat down and fleshed out, a little bit about, Snow's mom. And then she went and wrote a great little story, a little thriller story, which was the first thriller she had ever written. And, and it came out, and it was a lot of fun. I was like, I like this. We will, and when we run into her again, a lot of Nicole's characterization will stay with that character, because all these are in the universe. They happen, but everybody was great. Charles Millhouse did one, Brian K. Morris, Mark Busquette, Bernadette Johnson, all of them turned in great stories. Some of them were Snow stories, some of them were secondary characters. And it was really cool. I had a blast doing it. It was fun. It was fun seeing what these other writers focused on from the characters, what they saw about the characters, and seeing it from their point of view, I think helped me get to know my characters better. So far, and we release them like we do the Snow books. It's not 3 short stories in one novella, and so for every 3, one of them is mine. I did one in each book. So we've done 9 so far. So there are me and 6 other writers, and so hopefully we'll do more. These were very. It was an experiment. We were releasing them as individual 99-cent ebooks until we had 3, and then we would collect them. And so it was fun. It was a fun experiment. I think everybody had a good time. We just collected them, the first 3 novellas worth, in a big, volume. You know, a lot of people are waiting until they're in that format to pick them up, and so yeah, it's been fun. It's been really cool to see other people's reaction to the characters, and yeah, and so I'm not terrified anymore. But
nice. Well, yeah, I knew it was a successful project. I knew that. I was curious about how it's going presently. But yeah, it's neat that you are now on the other end of that after yourself writing in other people's universes. Yeah, that you get to wear the other hat.
Yeah, and it's also cool because it does help keep the character in the spotlight, because, you know, we were releasing them as individuals and then the collected and then et cetera, and we did audios, and we put it in every format we could think of, and that's also a lot of good opportunities to promote the series, especially during that time, because I was doing some other work and I knew it would be a little while before I could write the next book. So this also kept Snow in the spotlight, kept Snow stuff coming out while I was getting this other stuff done. So yeah.
Well, I mean, I myself am familiar with a few of the writers involved. I mean, Nicole is an excellent writer. I know Brian K. Morrison, and of course, I do want to give a shout out to his video channels. He's so fun to watch on his YouTube channel. And but Brian is awesome, and Charles Milhouse, a great publisher, also.
Yep.
So I mean, you had some really, really top notch folks, just I know personally. But as that gets out, I mean, and people follow each of them, I mean, they're, they're discovering you in their, when those folks are exhibiting their works, and one of them happens to be a story in your universe. So yeah, it's the word's getting out. it's definitely helping.
And really, I mean, and that's, that's part of, what we do. I mean, because like I said, we spend a lot of time promoting and making sure the books get in the right places and in the right hands of people who can help spread the word. And I mean, that's a lot of behind the scenes stuff that I do every day while the muse in the back of my head's going is like, shouldn't you be writing? But yeah, it's but it's fun. I had a blast doing it, and hopefully we'll do more. So
no.
Amy McCorkle's in the chat room, and she asked Bobby, and she said, "You have a great voice. Do you narrate your own books?"
No. No. I leave that to the professionals. I did one years ago. I narrated a short story, and I did not enjoy the experience. It just was not. I was terrified. It was. I think it came out okay, but I get in my own head when I'm trying to read aloud, because I sometimes do that where I'll do videos of me reading a sample chapter, and I get in my own head, and I think I start getting into a bit of a hurry, and then I start flubbing lines and so it's not. I would need some practice and coaching and all before that, but I also love the narrators I have that I work with that just do hands down better than I could ever do. So so I'm totally cool with that. Plus, again, it's that other thing. It's like if I'm narrating my own books, then I'm not writing. And I need to So yeah.
See, I thought that
no matter what I'm doing.
But I see what Amy's saying though, because I think you do have a good voice, and to bring it up, you're a performer too. I mean, you have numerous credits in TV shows and movies, and you act and everything. And so for me, it almost, just looking at it from the outside, at least, I mean, it looks like almost like a natural jump to doing some of that. Maybe not for your own work, but I would think that you could pull it off for maybe somebody else if you were conscious about your own work.
Yeah. I have thought about taking classes for like voice work classes to kind of get a little better, because I personally think my voice is awful. So that makes me feel good.
You have a great speaking voice.
Yeah, you do. We hear a lot of voices, Bobby. Trust me. We hear a lot.
I think, too, I think we all hate our voice. I think we all think our voice sounds weird. I think that's just a normal thing.
Yeah,
but I do enjoy. Now, I do enjoy doing things like with the acting, which I haven't. The pandemic stuff really, threw a wrench in that. So I haven't done. I've only done like one gig in like the last year. I worked one day on a movie. It was the last day I worked. I played a fry cook. It was great. It's doing depending on what kind of acting you do. Like I've done acting where I have lines and you come up with how you're going to deliver those lines, and there's a lot of emotion, or you're terrified here, or you find this entire situation funny, or what, and so you have to kind of figure out how to work that in. Playing scared, I get the tendency to want to laugh while I'm pretending to be scared. But it's just that that's just the natural reaction to it for me, is to laugh, which is probably the wrong thing to do. But yeah, so stuff like that's fun. Getting the words, words are important. Knowing which words to emphasize to get the point across, because you can say the same sentence 3 different ways. By putting emphasis on certain words, it means something else.
Yep.
So that stuff that's tricky, and but I do miss acting. It's I'd love to get back into it again, and
I'm sure.
Yeah,
sure, because up here they're kicking back in. I mean, Holly and I have both seen a lot of productions like starting to really roll up here, and that's just here in Kentucky. And of course, Atlanta's a larger market, and so I would think that things are opening up a bit, a bit more on the production side. So hopefully that'll change and some more opportunities.
Well, and part of the problem now is just because, and it's my problem. It's not their problem. It's my problem. Is it's easy for me to take a day off work and go, act for a day in something. But, we're still in you need to do a COVID test 2 days before. You need to do a COVID test the day before. And almost all of those happen south of Atlanta. So that's like a 3 to 4 hour round trip for me, 2 days in a row. And it's hard to lose that much work, writing work.
I see.
So,
I see.
I did apply for one this week. It was an extra gig, working in the background. They're filming a TV show. Like, we passed the set. It's like 6 miles from my house. And I was hey, I can do that, but I didn't get it. So,
Well, shoot, because you're right there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you don't get roles for a multitude of reasons, My size hurts me a lot, There's a lot of shows that don't want big people in them. I am a heavy, if you may see my photos, I'm a pretty heavy set guy. And there was one casting notice I saw a few years back, and I had to laugh because it says, we're looking for an overweight guy. And I'm like, all right, this is me. Maximum waist size, 38. And I'm like, that's not a heavy set guy.
No, not really.
They obviously are very skewed. Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Well,
No
they
kidding.
do that with like muscles and stuff. They think if they're like above a size 8, 7 or 8, that they're overweight, or that I'm like,
yeah.
No.
It's kind of like how Hollywood unattractive means you're a supermodel who doesn't comb her hair and wears glasses.
Yeah.
It's so true. Isn't that the truth? Oh my God! But yeah, you think that? Yeah, I mean, you think a lot of contemporary shows though they'd want different kinds of body types add more realism in the show. Yeah.
Body shaming. It's supposed to be anti-body shaming, so you would think.
Right, but I mean, well, and it's not always because of that. Sometimes it's just because these are the size costumes we have. You know, they're looking for people to play FBI agents. Okay, here's the size costumes we have. We need people that will fit these costumes. Or, because there was a time there several years back where I somehow got on a list that if you needed an angry fat guy, I was your man. I played the angry fat guy on like 6 or 7 different projects in 1 year. And it was great. I had great fun doing it. But somehow I guess I play angry well, I guess. But it's so you just never know. They have. It's just like when you're writing your book and you're talking to your cover artist. You know what the character looks like in your head, and they kind of have that idea. They know what they're looking for, and they and they have a pool to choose from. So you never take it personally when you don't get one.
No,
you might go, oh, that's too bad, but I've got to work on some fun projects. So it's time I spent on Doom Patrol was an absolute blast. The time I spent on The Following was an absolute blast. So I not only did I have that cool experience, it's almost like going to film school and being paid to go to film school because I can watch and I can see what they're doing and I'm learning. Plus, you're getting to meet people, and I've met all kinds of people that work in different departments, and when you're doing background work, a lot of times, on The Following, I was playing an FBI agent. Well, the background crew is full of people that are SWAT officers and cops, and there was a real FBI agent there. So these are people that do the job. So I'm like, hey, I'm a writer. Man, I'd love to ask you some questions sometime. Can I give you a card?
Nice.
So I made great contacts. I made great contacts with people. To learn how I got to spend a day with the FBI, and that was awesome.
That's cool. That's cool.
Because I met that guy on set, I got to there's a process to go through to do it. Because the FBI really, they background you and all that. They check everything.
Oh yeah.
But I got to spend a day with the FBI. Yeah, it was great. I learned a lot. It was a great experience. And so doing stuff like this has allowed me to do things that I would never have gotten to do. I've gotten to go into very interesting sets, either like live locations or built sets. I've got to meet very cool actors and writers and directors and things like that, and and then see them later, because a lot of these guys do conventions, so we're at cons, and they're kind of like that. Hey, I know you. There's a lot of that. So it's really cool. I've got to experience a lot of wonderful things, and certainly as a comic book fan, being able to stand around and watch the Doom Patrol move around, that's awesome. As a comic guy. I tried so hard to get on the Captain America movies. I never could make it happen. But being able to just kind of live in that world, and you just feel, I don't know, it's really cool. It's just, you guys have done this, because I know you filmed, when you were filming the Raven Valkyrie stuff, being that it immerses you in that world, but it's a different, but you still see it, you have a different mindset. Like I do stuff and I'm on set, and so I have these memories of being on set, and then I watch the movie that I'm in, and it's still cool and all, but the memories aren't the same because the camera is looking at it from a different angle than I am. So to me, it looks like this. Yeah. But then I see it, and I'm like, oh, okay. So they don't see it from the angle I see it. So I got to see all this other stuff. To me, being in the moment felt important, but the camera wasn't on that kind of stuff. It's a very unique sensation. But
yeah,
I absolutely have a blast doing it.
I think it's great. I have a lot of fun with it, and it is. It's just enjoyable. And I mean, if you have a passion for it, you enjoy it, and you know, it is. It's something neat to do once in a while, you know.
Yeah, and I like to meet people. I'm fairly outgoing. I like to meet people. I know you can tell how shy I am here in the interview. But I like to meet people. I like to learn stuff, you know. I think that comes part of the writer in me, you know. I love research and learning things, and you know, so being on sets, I've learned how they do things. But I've also learned what it's like being on set. So if I need to write a story that takes place on a movie set,
you've experienced
I've got to Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what, Bobby. I was going to say, if you need a stern nun, Holly's your girl.
All right.
Yes, I am.
Yeah.
Yes, I am.
She can do that.
Yes, I am.
So it's cool stuff, but it is the second. It is kind of like the side gig for me. So I don't do it as often as I could if it was my, like if I was doing it, that was my primary focus, I would do more, I'm sure. But I have to do that around the writing deadlines because that really is.
Wait till you act
focus.
in a production of one of your Snow Tales. That's going to be the cherry on the sundae.
Yeah.
That will be awesome. But
that's right.
Holly, you know what I was thinking about when Bobby was talking about the FBI doing the back check on him? I was thinking about the thing with all writers. It's like the FBI comes back and they're like, oh my God, you should see what this guy's been researching. Especially speculative fiction thriller author.
Yeah. It's like, why do you
should see what he's been researching. Yeah. That must have been a fun conversation before they talked to you. Oh, yeah, he's a writer. Okay, that explains it.
Yeah. Yeah, because I remember I was at a convention. I want to say I was in Memphis, but that could be wrong. I was at a convention when my phone rang, and it was and I remember the agent's name because she had just the coolest name. There was Agent Birdsong from the FBI, and so I found a little quiet corner and chatted with her. And we talked for a good, 15, 20 minutes, and she was like, we're going to set you up with an interview with the guy in Atlanta that you met on set. He's our liaison to writers and media and et cetera, et cetera. And so we'll set you up an interview with him. And I was like, great. So I go to do the interview, and we talk for a bit. And we talk in generalities about the FBI and what they do. He gave me some cool literature. And I said, well, I have some story-specific questions because I do write a book. I'm writing books about the FBI agent as the main character. And so I was like, well, book one ends with, the character gets shot. It's not life-threatening, but he gets shot. And in the climax. And so in book two, I want to go over a little bit what happens after. And he goes, let me tell you about the time I got shot. And he goes into this story that could have been a movie on its own.
Nice.
And so I'm just scribbling notes and I'm like, he's like, use any of that you want. And I'm just like, all right. So
sweet.
Yeah, so there's so you learn all the procedures and all that stuff and what's going on and they have it down pat when somebody gets hurt. I thought the weirdest part of the story is like I got hurt, I got shot, I hit the ground. Someone is at my side. They're taking my gun and my badge. They're slapping something on to stop the bleeding. They've called for someone to get me to the hospital. They get me to the emergency room. They've already got my wife there. Like they had already collected his wife, had her at the hospital before he was. Wow. And it was like, they were on it. So. Yeah, so I learned a lot doing that. So that research and learning those things is just really cool.
That's awesome. And you can now say you've been screened, so you may you passed the test.
Yeah, it's like It's like, yeah, every time I talk to people that are like, oh, we're probably on the FBI's list somewhere. It's like, no, I know I'm on. I already know I'm on the list. Yeah.
Yeah, I am on the list. Yeah. That's awesome. How cool. What a good story.
Yeah, but that stuff's fun. It's one of those cool things that not everything I learn at these things goes into stories, but it's in my head, and I learn a lot.
Yeah, it's there.
Yeah.
Well, with writers, a lot of things gird the story that don't necessarily directly make it into the story, but it forms part of the backdrop to your thinking, and so it does in a way make it onto the page. Mm-hmm. So I mean,
why they do things
valuable.
the way they do them, and
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so I learned a lot, and a lot of it went into the stories, and it's really cool. And again, I've got that contact. If I ever need it, I can go back and say, hey, I have a question.
Yeah.
So
absolutely. How cool. Well, you mentioned that you have a lot of stuff percolating, and obviously maybe there's some things you can't talk about, some things you haven't got slated on the calendar. But as we near the back stretch of the show, I do want to make sure that we get out there new releases and releases that are definitely on the horizon, so you can make our listeners aware of them.
Oh, sure, absolutely. Well, right now we're actually in the middle of a Kickstarter to pre-order 2 books in a new series. It's a Western horror that I'm doing for Valhalla Books, and they're done. The first 2 are done. I'm working on book 3 for next year. The first 2 are done. The publisher launched a Kickstarter for pre-orders, and I mean we've met the goal. It's a very small goal. We met the goal, but it's a great way. We're calling it pre-orders with perks. You want to get signed paperbacks, pre-order them through here. Mm-hmm. You'll get signed paperbacks. You'll get my drawing on the envelope. You'll get you'll get there's posters and other perks and whatnot with So we're doing that right now. The books are the first book is called Dante's Temp. The second one is called Dante's Showdown. So they'll all have Dante's in them somewhere, and because Dante is the name of this town where weird stuff happens. It's in the imagine if Deadwood had monsters.
Nice.
And that's
nice.
Kind of and so book 1, this isn't much of a spoiler. Book 1 opens with strangers coming to town in their horse-drawn carriage with no open windows because they're vampires and sunlight would probably be bad for them. And so that's how it opens with a vampire family coming to town. And things just get weirder from there. But
well, you just got Holly to sit up right there. You said the V word, Holly.
Yes, and in most of my stuff, there tends to I'm a big action guy. There's action and thrilling stuff, and gun battles, and somebody's going to get punched or stabbed or shot, or something's going to blow up, or I enjoy that stuff. So they're very pulpy in tone. They're that just quick, actiony, fun, good versus evil and all that. So I'm having a ball with it. It started. I wrote a short story for an anthology that came out called The Devil's Due, and it was the theme of the anthology was, when you make a deal with the devil, you always have to pay a price. And so the theme was all of these people have made a deal with somebody bad. They didn't have to be demons; they could be real people. But you've made a deal that's gone, and it's time to pay the piper.
Right.
And I was trying to, and whenever you do themed anthologies, for me, my rule of thumb is the first 5 ideas, I throw them away, because if they come to me quick, somebody else has already thought of it. So I was like, I'll do a Western. And so I wrote this short story that's the emphasis of Dante's Tenth, and, you know, told the story. After the book comes out, the publisher goes, okay, so what happens next? And I was like, what do you mean what happens next? He says, I don't know, that ending's kind of, you know, you left it like with a little twinkle in the guy's eye and a nudge, nudge, wink, wink. And I was like, well, you know, I like to do that. I like to show it's part of a bigger world. He goes, great, so what happens next? I'm like, I don't know. Well, he said, you better. I need more books. and so
nice.
That's kind of how we got started. And so, yeah, so in book one of that, we're repackaging my short story, but I also wrote other short stories that take place in Dante that's
Sweet.
to kick off the storyline. And then in each one, in each book
nice.
too, I do books. I do like to have, I mean, it's a series, so things will continue, but I do wrap up the A plot in every book. I hate to get to the end and read the words to be continued. So I don't do that to people.
Gotcha.
And so I did that. And so then I came up with a plot for book two. I did that. While I was writing book two, I came up with some ideas for book three. So I wrote the ending of book three before I was even halfway through with book two, because characters started talking to me. And so that was cool. So yeah, so as long as they sell, the plan is after we're going to release two by the initial, but beyond that, one a year. You know, as long as people are buying them, you know. And so, yeah, so that's cool doing that. Later this year, there's going to be a new snow book, hopefully in March. I'm steadily working on that now. That's book 7 of the novella series. It's called Snow Hunt. Snow teams up with a guy he knew back when he was in the Army who has become a bounty hunter. And so they work a case together. So that's fun. I'm enjoying that. That was another one where I got to call on, you know, we were talking about, you know, getting networking and all. I got to call on a writer friend of mine who is a judge. And it's like, okay, so I have a question. This guy he's been locked up. He needs to get from here to here so this can happen. What do I got to do to make that happen? And so she was giving me judicial reasons why this guy would be in this place or why they would have to move him. And so I was like, good, because I didn't think of that. So that's good. So we were able to work, you know. So, but that's going to happen. The book 3 of the Sherriff Myers series, the mystery thrillers, will be out. I'm working on that one now. That one's called Standing on the Shadows.
Sweet.
So book 3 of that will be out probably spring or early summer. After snow, I'll finish it up after snow. I've got several comics. I wrote an issue of Randy Bishop's Hawk of New York, issue number 8. I'm going to be writing issue number 9 and quite possibly issue number 10. But I know for a fact 8 and 9, but we're talking about maybe doing 10 as well. And so those are fun, having a good time with that. Randy is the artist, and it's his character, so we kind of co-plot it together. We did it. Actually, we did this over like Skype or Zoom. You know, we'd talk and go. You know, we'd talk out what he wanted to see, and I went off and wrote it that way. So those will issue 8 of that should be out sometime this year, and 9 would then follow sometime after. I'm doing. I can't really go into too many details yet, but I'm doing a couple of comic book miniseries. I'm working on they're each 4 issues apiece. I'm working on number 4 of the second one right now. And
nice.
They are already slated. The publisher has deals for them to become either TV miniseries or movies for streaming.
Nice. All right.
So, yeah. So the first one I did is called Shank. That's the character's name. I turned that in, and as I understand it, last week, the filming script, based on my comic script, was completed. The second one and it's kind of like a superhero-ish, like vigilante type story. Doing one now called Resurrection, which is more of an R-rated superhero-y, revenge, mystery. And I'm working on book 4 of that now. So that one's a lot of fun. That one's more super-powered stuff. So a lot more big things of like, people throwing buildings and stuff. It's like you're really writing the superpower stuff. So those are happening. I don't know. I don't think the film parts will happen this year. They'll probably come out in 2024. Hopefully the comics will come out this year, but I don't know. I don't know what the dates or any of that. I don't even know the artist involved at this point. So as I get more, I'll share that. But and I wrote for an educational publisher. I did a 6-book series, 6 individual books, but there's a theme that ties all 6 together. I don't know if this is the official title, but in our emails we were calling it Crimes in Time. And so it's crime fiction. So each one is set during a real historical moment. Like book 1 is set during, it's a crime fiction story I made up, set during the Great Chicago Fire of 1871. Then there's one that takes place on the Titanic. Then there's one that takes place during the Great New York Blackout of 1977. There's one that takes place during the bombing of Pearl Harbor. There's one that takes place during the explosion of Mount St. Helens, the eruption of Mount St. Helens. There's one that takes place during Hurricane Katrina. And so I wrote a different crime story with different characters, just a standalone crime story set around those. And then at the back of it, there's pages of real facts about the real event. And so those are fun. So those are done. All 6 are written. 5 have been edited. 6 is in edits now. And then they're off to the artist. So I'm hoping that'll happen this year. I really, it's one of those things I don't know those dates yet. So, but yeah, so that's what the last probably 6 months of my life has been. Is that stuff. Plus I still do a little work here, a short story here and there, and a few other things that just haven't been announced yet. So,
just awesome.
Yeah, I juggle a lot.
Yeah, way to go, man.
We understand that.
Yes, thank you.
know, and that just means you have to come back and update us later.
Yeah.
Well,
it's really cool.
Wow.
It is really cool. It is a great feeling when because when you write, you're alone. It's a very solitary job. You don't know who's reading your books. You don't, unless somebody tells you. You don't know. So you're and I tend to just assume nobody remembers me anyway. I just it's just in my head that way. But it is really gratifying feeling when someone contacts you and says, "We like your work. We think you'd be good for this. Are you interested in doing some work for hire?" That's
awesome.
That's a good feeling. It makes you feel good that ooh, something I'm doing is working. It's getting words
at
getting
least
out.
You're respected in your field. Somebody's taking you serious.
Yeah, absolutely. It's and it's weird how sometimes it's just you do something for a certain company. Like years ago, I did that. Jamie Chase and I did that adaptation of Edgar Rice Burroughs' novel At the Earth's Core as a comic, but it was for Dark Horse, which was that's a bigger publisher than I was generally working for, and there were publishers and editors that I couldn't get to give me the time of day on Wednesday, that on Thursday after Dark Horse announced I was writing it would suddenly talk to me. Because I had now worked for some.
That's the truth.
Right, because you have worked for. Yeah.
Yep.
Or oh my gosh, you got to write Zorro. Okay, that means something, because when you do licensed properties, there's an extra layer of scrutiny because you don't just get the approval of the editor and the publisher, the people that own that character have to like what you do. And sometimes sometimes when you get to that corporate side, those are not creative people; those are business people. So it's an extra layer of things you have to do, and you have to know kind of what beforehand what you can and can't do. There are certain stories, I can't cut off Zorro's hand, for instance. That's a life-changing thing. It's like when you watch Star Trek as a kid. You could kill Spock, but Spock had to be alive at the end of the episode. There had to be some science fiction-y reason that he comes back. And at the end of the episode, the Enterprise flies off and everybody's alive and in the exact same shape they were when the episode started. And writing licensed fiction. And writing licensed fiction is like that. You are there to tell a story. You're not there to break things unless they've hired you to do that. You're not there to marry a character off or kill a character or blow up the interface or cut off Zorro's arm. That's not what you're there for. You're there to tell
change character.
Right. And so, but that is a good skill. That is a good thing to know ahead of time, because having done this a bit now, I do know that sometimes they do get those kind of pitches from people, and it's like, wait a minute, no, we can't kill. We can't kill Robin in a Batman story and just leave him dead because you don't like Robin. Yeah, you can't do that. Yeah. So that gives you a leg up learning that I'm just playing with toys. I have I have to give them back in the same shape I found them. And so that's
Yeah. Okay. I didn't know if you were finished there or not.
Sorry.
Okay. Yeah. Words of wisdom from Bobby. Yeah.
Before he goes, because Amy was asking, and Amy was going to she'll listen to the playback, but she was wondering if you were making it to Imaginarium this year.
Probably not. I would love to, but this year most of my travel
range
for cons is close to home.
I
would love to.
That. I could have answered that one because every year Bobby knows. Every year I definitely say, "Hey, Bobby, we got a door open for you," but he knows that. But as soon as he can make it, absolutely.
If I could convince my dad to come to it and if I could take him with me, then it'd be a no-brainer. But it's hard to get away like that.
We're telling we'll get him a Kentucky hot brown.
We'll give him a good Kentucky hot brown.
That's good.
So, but it's I would love to get back up there. It's I'd love to do more traveling. It's just it's just been tough, but
we understand.
Everything I've done
absolutely.
Everything I've done has been like a day trip where I can come back home that night, or at worst. Like I did a convention in Biloxi last year, but he went with me because we were staying in a hotel on the beach, and he's like, "I'll just sit here." And so he enjoyed the beach,
and
neither of us had ever been there before.
Let's go place in the world, and so I'm always like, let's go do one in Biloxi. Let's go do one down there.
I did that. So we did that. Yeah, because neither of us had ever been there, and so we thought, it'll be a cool little trip. We'll go, and and so that
we'll try to get your way, Bobby. We'll try to get down there to Atlanta for something, and so we at least see it in person at some point.
We need to get you guys down for Dragon or the Decatur Book Festival or something like that.
I would love it. That would be fun. Yeah, Holly would enjoy that too. But let's give you a chance.
So it's
that's true. That's true. But before we conclude tonight, though, let's give listeners a way to find you online, all the key websites and social media that you would like to direct people to.
Oh, sure. Well, BobbyNash.com is my website, so there's links to everything there. I'm on social media. I have author Bobby Nash on Facebook, at Bobby Nash on Twitter. Bobby Nash Writes on Instagram. I'm on LinkedIn, but I think it's just Bobby Nash. I don't remember off the top of my head. Sorry. I have a Patreon page. It's Patreon.com/Bobby Nash. So there's kind of a theme there. Yeah, it's LinkedIn.com/Bobby Nash. Yeah, there you go.
There you go. Yeah.
So I have all the social media stuff. You can find me there. I have an Amazon author page. I have ben-books.com is my is my publishing imprint, Ben Books. AbrahamSnow.com is the Snow website. So it got big enough it needed its own site. So I have those. And
fantastic.
We're doing like I said, we're doing the Kickstarter now. You can find links to that at any of the sites I just gave you. Because I've been it runs through the 30th or the 31st. And so I've been posting thing like every other day about it. So, just to try to get the word out. And, so those are the places you can find me. And, I'm not hard to track down. Please,
thank you so
hello.
much. Yeah, thank you for joining us tonight, Bobby, and always a pleasure to have you, and definitely want you to have you back in the not so distant future to of course update us on everything and keep in touch in between, of course. But appreciate you visiting and taking time out tonight. It is always a pleasure to have you on the show.
Thank you. I had fun. It was great to come and do this. As you can tell, I don't get to talk to people much during my normal day, so it's really cool to not only to talk to people, but talk to creative people. Talking to creative people is really cool. One of my favorite things to do.
You're in the right place. And Holly, but Holly, we'll let you do the honors, Holly, and you can wrap us up for the evening here.
All righty. Well, thank you, Bobby, again. And, we'll talk to you soon, man. And good luck on the Kickstarter and all the projects in the work. And I want everybody to let everybody know, have a wonderful week. And join us next Wednesday night, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We'll be here speaking with another great creative and having another great convo. Maybe you'll learn something, maybe you won't, but hey, it'll be fun either way. So we'll talk to you then. Good night.